Hello, everyone, and welcome to a special video edition of the Influential Times. Also, working from a home edition. It's a bad hair day edition for me as well. So, usual format, we're going to be talking about the big stories in influencer marketing this month. I am here, as always, with my colleague Alistair.
Hello.
And we are going to talk about everything that's big in social media and the influencer space at the minute. So to kick off, Alistair, you wanted to talk about podcasts. How is the medium of audio faring at the minute under the current conditions?
Yes. Well, apparently podcast listening has taken a little bit of a hit because of the coronavirus. Interesting article in Quartz. It is behind a paywall. There's a free trial if you want to check it out, but I highly recommend signing up anyway. But they've looked at various different websites that collate podcast data globally, looking specifically at Chartable and Backtracks, and also the data out from Spotify, all of which is showing that podcast listening is actually down a bit, sort of 10, 20, or up to 30%, depending on what's being looked at. Now, bear in mind that this data is mostly coming out of the US, which has not had the same level of lockdown imposed as Europe has. So as we start to see more parts of the US putting on lockdown restrictions, we're probably going to see podcasts take an even bigger hit. And this is all because people are not commuting now, and a lot of people were listening to podcasts as part of their commute. So now that they're not doing the commute, they're not listening to podcasts. So what are marketers going to do who rely on podcasts? Obviously, this is a podcast normally, and will be still a podcast, but we're also doing this video edition. So what we'd recommend is that marketers maybe try and do two things. One is to see whether the podcast can be converted to video format. The other is to also try and make the podcast maybe broken down into smaller bite-sized chunks. So social media usage as a whole is up, and people are looking at more video, but maybe longer form listening is down. So you might need to look at ways to kind of divvy up or slice up what would have been a long form podcast into shorter format, and maybe converting it to video where possible. So that's also part of why we're doing this experiment. Over to you.
Yes. Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting seeing whether some of those trends flatten out as people sort of get back into old routines and start finding time to kind of do some of their old stuff, whether it'll be listen to a podcast on your daily government mandated exercise walk or whatever it is. So speaking of online video, one of my stories this week is about the new phenomenon of Zoom bombing. So I've seen lots of articles recently going, oh, what is Zoom? And have you heard of it? Obviously, if you kind of work in B2B or in tech, what is Zoom is not really a question that you're asking. That's probably something you kind of just knew about already. But I think what we're seeing is there's a lot of people using Zoom for the first time, and they're kind of just turning to it in a very open way, just posting the link to a Zoom on their Instagram and going, anyone who wants to join. And they're getting trolls. People turn up and they post lewd material to kind of everyone, or put something extremely lewd on their screens or something like that.
The guy in Norway apparently crashed a Google Classroom or something like that, and flashed at the kids, which really was not a nice thing to do. But
yes, that's jolly unpleasant, and I suppose being incredibly unpleasant is nothing new on the internet. People have been doing that, and indeed doing that in person. For all you history buffs, people have been being mean to each other in all sorts of ways for hundreds of years. So nothing new there. But I guess what's interesting is it just shows at the minute most people are really unfamiliar with all these new tools, and as we get used to them, as Zoom said in the article that I'll link from Goddess of Online Culture, Taylor Lorenz. As she points out in the article, there's nothing in the Zoom settings to prevent you just making the meeting private or being a bit more stringent about how you kind of allow people in. You can limit people's ability to message others. It's just kind of, I think people are going to have to work through a lot of that in the next few months, and hopefully we're going to come out stronger and wiser about how to get that done. But few growing pains there.
Yes, so yeah, try not to get Zoom bombed. Good tip. Hopefully no one's going to crush our little recording here now. Well, actually, my kids do that. That's a different thing, though. They just walk into the videos. So another thing, actually, talking about working from home, there's been a survey done of marketers asking them what they think is going to happen with all this remote working and how it's going to impact their teams and their brand. So there's a useful article about this on Marketing Week, just talking about how marketers fear remote working will compromise their brands during the coronavirus crisis. So what is interesting, actually, I thought in the article was they asked people who do already work from home about what how they think that impacts on them, and most of those people, so 65%, believe that they work more hours at home, and that 73% then believe that they are more efficient when working from home. So people who are used to working from home actually say they actually work longer hours and they're more efficient. But yet, when the bosses were kind of asked about the impact on their team, 12% of them said that working from home, definitely compromised their brand and how their team worked, and another 50% thought that it could be compromised depending on how long this happens for. But then also 37% said that remote working was not suitable for junior staff. So I wonder how attitudes towards remote working are going to change with all of this, and whether or not those who are not used to working from home, especially sort of maybe senior managers who don't like the idea, might have to really invest in ways to promote better sort of culture amongst their teams. But particularly there seems to be a concern, nearly 70% saying that this is a particular problem for marketers because it impacts on creative collaboration. So I think this is just going to be a bit of a learning curve, because there are ways to creatively collaborate, and there are lots of people, PR teams, marketing agencies who are small startups who just work remotely as a matter of course anyway before all of this happened. So I think for those smaller agencies who are good at this and have made it work for them, there's perhaps an opportunity for them to offer just more advice and counsel on specific things for how marketing teams can collaborate. I think there's lots of content already out just for general tips about working from home. There's loads of it out there, but specifically for marketing teams, some of these agencies, PR and marketing agencies who do it already well, can just maybe share their sort of recipe for success and how they get their colleagues to work collaboratively online.
Yeah, I think really I read something this weekend about how some workplaces are investing in sort of surveillance software, and I guess I would say that way lies madness. Are you really gonna study hours of footage and kind of determine that, like, Kevin was reading something that wasn't strictly work related for 12 minutes today, so we'll take him out and have him executed? Probably just think about how you can put more tools in place if you're concerned that your team is going to struggle to collaborate. Encourage regular meetings, encourage people to use video chat, and ultimately, if you couldn't trust people when they were in the office, then I think, you've just got to trust your team ultimately, because otherwise I think you're going to drive yourself nuts. So to finish with, I wanted to do a sort of now for something completely different type story, something particularly COVID related. It's from earlier in the month. TikTok have unveiled a new creator marketplace. They are rolling out more analytics, inspecting data on views, engagement rate, audience demographics. I just think this is kind of, TikTok downloads are surging. More people are downloading it in the last month. It's essentially at this point behind maybe only Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook, I think, in terms of installs. So they're obviously doing very well. The challenge is going to be they've had some problems around content moderation, particularly in India, where it's kind of it's been fueling hate crime a little bit, and I guess just broadening out beyond their kind of Generation Z audience. So good that I guess they're looking to help the creators on there monetize. I think it's important for brands to think about that early. That ecosystem is going to crop up. I think it's generally a good thing if the platforms are sort of aware of that and trying to help them foster it, particularly in a sort of very B2C consumer led industry. or a platform that's very B2C and consumer led, like TikTok. So an interesting development, another platform investing in a creator marketplace and analytics, and kind of doubling down on that. So that's your lot. That's your 4 stories.
And so just the final thing from me is about online community action groups to help with the impact of coronavirus. I don't know what it's like around the world, but certainly in the UK, there have been loads of groups appearing, especially on Facebook, called coronavirus or COVID-19 mutual action groups, and they are normally kind of just community run. Some have got support from local governments or other kind of official local voluntary groups. But I've volunteered in my local one, and I'm also involved in one of the national kind of admin group as well. And I would say that there is a real need for people with marketing skills in these groups. So if you're a marketer listening to this and there is a group in your area, or there isn't one, create one, and offer your skills as a social media marketer to these groups, because communication is really important. And even if you can't actually leave the house, then there are other ways in which you can volunteer, which involve helping with comms, helping with putting guidelines together. So I just do this as an appeal for volunteers around the world. If you're in PR and marketing, look out for your local groups and let them know that you're in comms and marketing, and they will definitely be glad to have you helping them out with your skills as a marketer, helping to communicate with people around your area. And that you might be also going out and dropping off medicines and food as well, but that's something everyone can do. But specifically for you as a marketer or comms person, your skills are in demand for these volunteer groups, so do look out for them and get in touch. That's it from me.
Cool. Well, that's your lot. Thanks for watching, everyone. We'll be back next month. Also, keep an eye out. We're going to be sharing more resources on some of the themes we've been talking about. So keep an eye out for that from Analytica. And otherwise, I will see you all online, because that is the only place we are allowed to see each other. Bye, everyone.
Bye. Take care.